science and the digital economy, but most importantly for us, the Minister for Small Business. I just want to read you a little bit about Leeanne, because I know with politicians, we always go, oh, politicians, they get paid too much and they do nothing. And they don't. They work really, really hard. And they're also people too. I know Leeanne said to me one day that, you know, when we see politicians on TV and they're speaking politician speak, why is that doing that? Should I just yell? Yeah. Are you good with yelling? She's an ex-teacher. There you go. The media often misrepresents most people when they're in the public eye. And when you hear from Leeanne, you will find that she is an absolutely beautiful person who is really invested in what we want, what we need, and how we can help her. So a bit about her background. She's lived in this area for over 30 years. I know she only looks 20. She's the first of her family to graduate from university, and she's got a real commitment to lifelong learning. She was a high school teacher, so she knows what it's like to manage a rowdy group. So behave or you'll go to the corner. After leaving teaching, she's worked senior roles in local and state government, is particularly supporting Queensland at-risk families. So she's worked for the Red Cross for 7 years and has also worked with QCU, Queensland Council of Unions. So she became the Labor member for Algester, which is my area, and that's how, you know, I ended up in her office one day having a whinge. And you know, I said, come and meet some of the people in small business, because we're not all earning $5 million. We're all working really hard and we've got some real issues we'd love for you to hear. So she was sworn in as Minister for Housing and Public Works and Science and Innovation early 2015. And for Christmas, she was given the portfolio of small business. So I'd like to welcome Leeanne.
Okay for everybody? Can you all hear me? All right. Can I begin, of course, by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we gather? And in doing so, may I acknowledge the more than 3,000 generations of Yuggera people who have maintained cultural practices on this country. And can I acknowledge all of our elders, from wherever you come from, whatever your culture, those that have passed and those still with us, guiding us into the future. Can I also acknowledge Annette? And yes, we did meet in my electorate office, and I'll paraphrase, because that's how you've been paraphrasing. She sent me an email and pretty much told me that I was rubbish. Not really. But, you know, there were a whole heap of concerns that she had about a particular bucket of money or funding that we had around home-based businesses. And she had a view about that. And she made clear her view. And so I'm here because Annette and I got to meet, and we got to talk about what's happening in her life, what I hope for, you know, in terms of the government's directions and our commitments to small business. And we said, let's find ways to connect more stories together. And really, I guess, for me, Annette's courage and her, you know, her approach to the world of, let's just put it out there. Let's have a conversation. Let's say the hard things and let's find some ways through that. And that's the kind of stuff that I want all of us to be engaged in. I'm happy to have hard conversations. I'm happy for you to tell me, you know, what is going wrong, what is going right, what kind of things we could be doing differently. And so today, I'll speak a little bit about, you know, where I'm heading in terms of this small business portfolio and what the government's commitment is. But equally, I want to hear from you about the kinds of things that we could be doing differently, what we could be getting out of the way of even. And that's one of my big challenges that I didn't get to put on the table just here now. My big challenge is that quite often, all of you and small businesses are getting on with the job. Like, they're doing what they do. They don't really need or want government engaged in all of that. But there are some things that I know that government needs to do better. So, I guess I want to start a little bit about in terms of vision or long-term view. Right now, in Queensland and across Australia, we are in a very unique time in history. We're seeing changes in our economy that people kind of thought about 10 years ago, but would not have predicted the pace at which things are happening right now. We are in the middle of some massive changes, really fast-paced change. Technology has a lot to do with that, but also the whole globalised economy has a lot to do with it. We're seeing changes in terms of our resources boom. You know, there's a little bit of a shine coming off that now. It's resetting itself, if you like. There are a heap of challenges around that. But inside challenges, of course, are huge opportunities, and that's where small business has the greatest advantage. Because small business is the place where, when challenges are on show, small business has the opportunity to take advantage of that and create economic outcomes. So that's why the small business portfolio that I inherited at Christmas as a Christmas gift, as Annette says, is for me one of the most exciting parts of what I get to do. I get innovation, science and the digital economy, and small business is a natural cousin to all of that. It's a natural family member of that group. Because inside challenges where you see the opportunity, it's usually innovation that actually drives the next steps towards economic outcomes. And so all of you already, I know, are great innovators in your own way. I mean, hearing about where are you? Hearing about your work that's happening and your products heading off to the US. There's been some innovation in what you're doing that other people have recognised. And because we're sitting in a globalised economy, in a globalised world in terms of the technology we have access to, your business has this great opportunity now to leverage huge markets. You may be shouting us all lunch, next time round. But you're not alone. There's so many other small businesses, home-based businesses that are starting to have, who are starting to realise the potential of international markets. And so that's why we're sitting in this really unique time in history that we need to take advantage of in Queensland. That's why this government, the Palaszczuk government, committed to our Advanced Queensland Initiative. It's a $180 million initiative that's about innovation. It commits some money to research, of course, research and development. There's a whole section of funding that's about future jobs, and then there's a whole section of funding that's all about business investment attraction and the place of small business and all of that. So we want to see great innovative ideas, and we want to be able to support them from that, from the conception of that idea through to its commercial application. So there'll be a whole heap of announcements that you may have seen already that are coming up also in the next few weeks and months that are all about supporting great business ideas through that what's called the Valley of Death, where you've got this, you're sitting at home, you've got a great idea, you start talking to other people, but it's how do you get to the point where it can actually create some income for you. So that's all happening. Next to that, of course, many of you here may have received some funding from the Home-Based Businesses Fund, and that was the point of conversation that Annette and I had. And so I'm already looking at how do I change that? How do I make that so that it's not just about consultants being able to create business plans for people, but how do I actually help great ideas move into that place where you've got viable economic opportunities that come from it. So we're already making some changes that I can't announce today, but I can't wait to come back and announce. There's a great deal of work that's happening with my colleagues, with the Treasurer, around our focus on small business, and hopefully after this budget we'll see some announcements in that. But it's this kind of change in thinking that comes about from when we get to talk to each other, when we get to hear when I get to hear exactly what it is, what's impacting the way that you're able to do business, the way that our policies and our funding allocations are impacting. So you've had the Small Business, Home-Based Business Fund. There's also some commitments that we made around red tape reduction, and that's something that I hear from every small business I ever talk to, is about how do we cut down the red tape or the regulatory burden that governments put in place. I think everybody understands that regulation is important, like we need to have some safeties in place, but it's the processes that we go through to be able to comply with those regulations that need some addressing. So I have just recently chaired the Red Tape Reduction Advisory Council, where we're looking at particular streams of industry to really focus on how do we reduce the processes around regulatory burden, so it makes it easier to do business in Queensland. So I thought I'd let you know about that we're expanding some thinking around how do we make it easier, and some of that is not necessarily stripping regulation, but how do we collapse some into each other, how do we make the processes easier, how does local council and state and federal government work together so that's one form that you fill in, not 3,000 forms. It's all those sort of things that seem logical to us, everyday people, you know, when you go, why do I have to fill in the same thing 5 times? Surely I've already written it once, they've got my information, can't they pre-populate things or make it easier for me? So we're working on all of that. The other thing I just wanted to raise is that we've got this great program called Mentoring for Growth. And, you know, when you were talking about, someone just groaned? Oh, sorry. I'm just checking because I thought, I think it's really great, but if you've had an experience that's different, please make sure you tell me about it. I thought I heard someone go, no. But have you used it?
Do you want us to tell you things now, or do you want us to wait till you finish speaking and then bring it back?
Can I just give you that sort of overview, and then, yeah, let's have some interaction, yeah? Just be mindful that it is live streaming, so anything that you want to say, just think about, you know, you don't want to disclose too much about your business, maybe, I don't know, whatever. So the Mentoring for Growth program is one where you could sit in front of a panel of business people who have gone through the same experience as you, and that could give you the advice to be able to, you know, what do you do next? How do you protect yourself on something? You know, what's the process? So that program is actually been quite popular, and in terms of people who have actually utilised that program, we've seen growth in their productivity. They've been able to earn more money, been able to employ people, etc. So Mentoring for Growth, from what I can see, but if you've got some other views, please tell me, from what I can see is working really well, and it would be a great opportunity for you to be able to sit in front of people who've gone through exactly the same thing as you. But I guess in closing, there's a couple of things. One is that we are in this unique time in history where innovation is it's on the table. The discussion about innovation is on everybody's table, every level of government. We've got great opportunities globally to be able to tap into what's happening, and you've got a government who's willing to listen and, you know, be part of these conversations. The second thing I want to leave you with is, you know, Annette. I'm here because I had a conversation with Annette. She was able to tell me articulate exactly what was happening for her, and for many of you that you get to see, you know, that Annette sort of brings together at different times, I got to hear those issues directly. And then that has helped me form how I've gone now into the budget cycle with the Treasurer, etc., to see where we go to next. So this is, with this unique time, you know, this very unique time in our history, this is the time to actually speak up, be articulate about what it is that you think we could be doing differently to be able to position not just your personal businesses, but how do we position Queensland and Queensland's economy for the future? Knowing that things are changing very dramatically at a pace that we would never have predicted. And in fact, I say this all the time, it is pretty fair to say that in the next 10 years, we are likely to experience something like the equivalent of 100 years of change. That is how fast it's happening. Automation is coming into many different fields, many different industries. That's scary for some, and if you bring that paradigm of fear, then we will have some problems. But if we bring this paradigm of let's talk about it, let's find ways through, let's take advantage of the challenges and find our way through it and grasp the opportunities, then we will be positioned, not just you individually, but we will be positioned as a state that will be part of new economies into the future. So thank you so much for inviting me here. I'm happy to hear from you. I'm happy to take questions. I may not have all the answers just yet, but our exchange will help, you know, as I formulate further what our policy positions are. So thank you. Okay.
The lunch will be coming out soon. Leanne's here till 1. So in between food, I'm sure I'll move and maybe you can come in the hot seat. Jim, I know you've got a question.
I do. My question is in relation to what you said about streamlining red tape
Yeah.
and corporate governance. It's worse. My business has been defined as global by 3 of the leading road safety institutions.
Yeah.
We've got commercial partners who want to get involved with it, and basically there's nothing like it anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
Everything that we put into place in the preceding 2-3 years to be able to evolve the commercial ones, we have to hit the brakes at the start of this year because the Queensland government's put all these rules in place that didn't exist before. One example is registered training organisation status.
Yeah.
We had to set up our own relationship because nothing satisfied what we needed to move forward.
Right.
What's the purpose of having a national framework under ASPA for the Queensland government to say, no, we don't acknowledge that, now you've got to go through an approval with us? I should have had a budget, or I did have a budget of spending $100,000 in this part of the financials at the end of July,
Yeah.
establishing 3 new territories with 4 new vehicles, 6 full-time staff. And we've had the business grounded for 8 weeks because we can't move past compliance for stuff that we've already had approved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, my mindset's changing from let's work at making this happen here to I know the opportunity is huge in the UK, we've got interest in the US,
Yeah.
New Zealand's a great market for us.
Yeah.
I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
It's really at that point where I need to make a decision of stop passing my way up against the wall. And it's everything that your government is saying you want. It's innovative, it's
Yeah.
community, it makes a huge difference to the
Yeah.
way everything's being done. It's got huge economic benefit, and it doesn't rely on government funding at all. Get rid of programs.
Yeah.
Get
So
rid of
what agency have you been working with? That you've had to work with? Which part of the
Transport is where all
transport?
projects are.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah.
And
So,
no one's interested in buying.
well, I'm interested in helping you. So, I don't know all the details, and obviously I need to investigate what's happening inside that particular government agency that's creating the blockage for you. But clearly, this is the stuff that we need to learn from the real life experience. So,
You shouldn't be going through it in the first place.
I understand that.
It's one thing to have a set of rules that you've got to work to. But when the rules get changed partway through the game, we're getting rules applied just retrospectively that were made at the end of last year. And we
Yeah.
can't employ staff, we can't do anything we need to do.
Yeah.
Now, I've lost 3 corporate partnerships that were worth $250K each because we didn't give a timeline to staff.
Yeah.
And we missed their budgets for the start of this year.
Can we
Can we take this offline?
Well-
Maybe I can help you with a...
Yeah, Annette, what we'll do is Paul's here from my office. What we can do is set up a meeting very soon, like as soon as possible. Not just with me, but I can bring in the transport minister. We can find some other ways to get through what you're talking about. And that's the thing, I guess, is this is one example. I know that there are others that are, about where the blockages are. I would not have ever have heard of that if you hadn't just shared that with me right now.
The whole reason for coming here today.
Perfect. So, my job now, because I've heard it, is that, well, Paul's job now is to sit with you and we'll go through what it is and then we'll find our way through it. Yeah? So, and that's fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Jean. Really. Thank you.
James has done is what Leanne suggested before. He just stood up and went, I've got a real problem. And you can hear the pain
Yeah.
in Jean's voice is like, I've got, and I know Jean, he's got
Yeah.
an amazing business.
Yeah. Frustrating.
That can make a huge impact on our roads and the training that our young drivers are receiving. So I'm happy to help you
Perfect.
through that. Does anybody else have a question?
I do. With regards to the home-based business grants,
Yes.
there was no feedback. Basically, you succeeded or you didn't.
Yeah.
Was there any intention to ever give any feedback?
Yes,
Or
well-
any reasons why one business
Sorry?
went yes and another business said no?
Oh, so Christine was just saying the home-based business grants, that there was no feedback. There was either you received the funding or you didn't receive the funding, and there was no, this is why it happened, and what you could do better or anything like that. So there will be another round of this funding, but I've already asked the department to make sure that they have given everybody appropriate feedback so that if you weren't successful, that you could try again if this is something that you wanted. I'm also looking at how do we complement and supplement the home-based business grants with other stuff. I mean, it's one thing what that actually does, and I think some of it's important, but I want to be able to say there's more to it than just but what that funding actually does. And I'm wanting to put other supports in next to it, which I'm now having the argument inside the whole budgetary cycle. But I've already told the department before the next cycle that everybody will need to receive feedback about their application.
So we can expect to get something soon, or will that
Yes.
happen next time?
No,
Okay.
it will happen before the next round, so that you know whether it was a completely useless idea and you had no chance at all, or if you were just missing a couple of things, or if you were like in the top 5% and you just didn't make it this round, or whatever it was, so that you've got some informed knowledge about whether to apply again or just to leave it. Yeah.
One more question?
And Annette, I'll follow up with Annette so she can let you know, or you follow up with Annette if you haven't received something. I'll leave my cards anyway.
Yeah.
Just email through if you haven't received anything, and then I'll chase people. Yeah.
One more question?
Just you're talking about a grant. Who makes the decisions on the grant? Are they business people or are they public servants?
Yes, so there's a panel and there's a mix of public servants and business people. So they make the decision about, So I'm not distancing myself or anything like that, but the first round was prior to when I was the minister, so I'm now asking a few more questions about that kind of stuff. But as I understand it, it was a panel that had public servants and some business people.
You're getting to the bottom of it.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what they've told me.
One more question from
Yeah.
Justine.
Is the next round of application based on the same process as the first? So you have to go through a business consultant?
Well, this is what, after my conversation with Annette, and she has represented you very well, let me tell you. She came in very angry, and then we got along, so it was all right. So I am making some changes in that before the next round's announced.
Can you tell me what the changes are?
Well, I want to make it easier for people to be able to apply for it.
All the money's going to me.
No,
There you go.
it's not going to you. It's being live streamed, and it's definitely not going to you, Annette. No.
All right. Leanne, thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
We have a little gift from the Small Business Clinic of the Western Suburbs. So this may help you make some fixes.
Yes, thank you. Brilliant.
Oh, lucky you're not royal. I just manhandled you.
Oh.
Now, lunch is going to be served in a moment. So our next segment is